All right, welcome back to Stack Shack Sports. We had a great week of NFL football, as is tradition here on Tuesdays. We review every single game, rapid fire. I'm starting this. It's going to be a weekly thing. Y'all really enjoyed it last week, so we're going to make it a weekly thing. Every single game, rapid fire review. Who won, who lost, my just basic headline thoughts on each one, and maybe some overreactions to every single game. So let's get straight into it without further ado. The first game was that Thursday night game. We didn't talk about that. Jacksonville, New Orleans. Jacksonville wins. Expected them to win. Jacksonville looks pretty darn good. Trevor Lawrence had an okay day. Derek Carr, not even that bad. Tons of attempts. The better team won. It's not a particular blowout here, but the better team won. I think Jacksonville is one of the top teams in the league. I have them coming into the season as one of the top teams in the league, one of maybe the most improved. Although, last year, winning a playoff game, getting in the playoffs, that's pretty decent results anyways. Moving on, Falcons Bucks. Wow. All right. Falcons get the win. This is the division in football that is just bad, top to bottom. Nobody's really good, and so there's some teams that are going to get some wins. Ritter has a pretty decent day. Mayfield, kind of ugly on the completion percentage. It's a 16-13 game, not particularly exciting. A couple of field goals, and there you go. There you have it. 3-point win for the Falcons. Neither of these teams are very good. Bucks cooling off a little bit, right? Baker was cooking there at the beginning of the season. Maybe that was going to be a resurgence, but I think this is about what the Bucks are, what we expected the Bucks to be. They're kind of coming back down to earth after a bit of a hot start. Falcons, is Ritter the answer, I think, is the big question all Falcons fans are asking at the moment, and I don't know. I don't know. I think we need to get some more, tape on him. It's hard to judge a quarterback, 7 games into a 16, 17, 18 game season, right? So cannot make any snap judgments. I don't think there. Doesn't look particularly great, but they're going to win some games. They're probably not going to be in the best position for drafting. I'd say you ride Ritter out for another year. Give him a chance. Moving on, Bears. Wow. No Justin Fields, and the Bears offense comes alive. Deontay Foreman, huge pickup for me in fantasy coming into this week, was fantastic. Hoyer, the Raiders without Jimmy G are very bad. They just are. The Raiders' defense is not good. Tyson coming in here. Threw for 162 yards on 21 completions. Not very good, but they ran the ball pretty well. Threw a touchdown. Ran a couple of touchdowns. It's not bad, right? They were efficient. They moved the ball. They got first downs, and they got in the end zone a few times. Is this the future for the Chicago Bears? No. Tyson Bagent is not the future quarterback of the Chicago Bears, but I think it does maybe solidify the answer of, hey, I don't think Justin Fields is the answer. Now, again, the Raiders' defense is particularly bad, but I don't think at this stage we kind of know what we got from Justin Fields, and it's some flash. He does make some wild plays. He's wildly athletic, but just doesn't win games, doesn't move the offense, isn't efficient. Tyson was. That's a good completion percentage. Terrible yards per completion, but if you move the ball, you put up 30 points, score every single quarter, consistency, a little slow and steady wins the race maybe here, whereas Justin Fields can be flashy, but he's also making a lot of mistakes. No mistakes. Hoyer makes mistakes, you win the game. That is a situation, and that is a way to win in the NFL. make less mistakes than the other quarterback. It doesn't matter how athletic you are, how many wow plays. Now, we'd like some of those wow plays when you're facing very good quarterbacks that aren't making mistakes, but this is a situation where they did what they needed to win. I think Justin Fields is out at the end of this season. You know, I was not high on him coming in. Some people were talking like MVP. Oh, it's the year 3 buff like Jalen Hurts and all. It just didn't see it. I don't think he necessarily has the greatest weapons around him, but you can't just keep throwing interceptions and fumbles and making bad decisions and missing open guys. At the end of the day, you got to make some plays, right? And so I think Justin Fields is gone at the end of the year. Now, the Bears, 2-5, they might have a chance to draft somebody pretty legit. It is a pretty deep quarterback draft. I know we keep talking about that, and that's going to be the case with a lot of teams we talk about today. Quarterbacks, it is a deep quarterback draft. So, you're 2-5, you're doing pretty terrible. Justin Fields is hurt. See what happens the rest of the season, but I think you're looking at drafting a quarterback. Moving on. What? This was the I don't even understand this game. I don't understand what happened. The Browns win. Minshew mania struck again. And yet, look at this box score. I don't know how the Browns won. Minshew, 15 for 23 for 305 yards. Dude's just throwing it down the field. It's like 20 yards a catch. A completion. That's crazy. 2 touchdowns, throws 1 pick. All right, let's compare him to Phillip Walker. What? 15 for 32, 178 yards and an interception. What? You're telling me this guy lost and this guy won. Doesn't make sense. All right, maybe they ran the ball really well. All right, Ford, 11 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, 18 carries, 75 yards, touchdown. That's basically even. What? What happened? It literally makes no sense. It really does. It makes no sense looking at the box score how Cleveland won, but they did. So give them some credit. This defense we think is really good, but then Minshew throws up 305 yards, 2 touchdowns on him. I don't know what happened. In the end, did enough to win the game. Again, look at this box score. It's ridiculous. Scroll down to the bottom here. I'll show you the team stats. Total yards. 450 to 300. Passing yards. 288 to 166. Yards per play. Rushing yards. Everything is on the Colts. And I mean, these aren't particularly close. 288 to 160. Yards per play. 7 yards a play versus 4. That's wild. Wild that they lost this game. I watched this game and I don't understand how it happened. Like, what the heck? Now, I know there's a controversial call in this game. I'll let you all fight it out in the comments. We're not going to talk about it today. Moving on. Wow, what a barn burner this was. Commanders, Giants. Is Tyrod Taylor just a better option than Daniel Jones? I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but I don't see a big difference there. And boy, oh boy, I mean, go watch the video I had a couple weeks ago on Daniel Jones's contract. Tyrod Taylor, Daniel Jones. I'm just not seeing big difference there. They get the win. Sam Howell, he seems to be a bit of a roller coaster. I think he's good enough, but he makes some really dumb decisions and bad throws every once in a while. So, gonna be tough. There you go. 14-7. 2 pretty boring teams. I did have the Commanders high this season. I was expecting big things from Sam Howell. He didn't have a particularly terrible day compared to, Tyrod, but that one interception is costly, and yeah, there you go. 14-7. Not much happening there. All right, this is a big one. This is one I'm going to talk about for a second here. Ravens, Lions. Wow, does Baltimore look good. Now, if you look at statistics, and I got to give a shout out to the Herd, Colin on his show brought up the concept of the fact that I think Lamar's something like 13-1 when facing NFC opponents. Like, he just doesn't lose to them. And it's true. You see Lamar for the first time, and this was the point that Colin made, and I wholeheartedly agree with. First time you see Lamar, he is so fast, he is so athletic, you just can't simulate him. I mean, I know there was like a rumor that Bill Belichick in practice was having his, receivers start down the field for Tyreek Hill, right? It's the same thing. You can't simulate the speed of Lamar, the athleticism of Lamar, and sometimes you just get the Lamar game. It's like the Clay game in Golden State. If he gets hot, you're just not stopping him. And, I mean, look at these numbers. 21 for 27, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns. What? Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, fantasy owners drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, expecting him to do something. He finally did something. Great for you. Jared Goff. Not great. 284 on 33 completions with a pick. Bad day for him. Ravens defense is good. Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Bengals, and we're going to talk about Steelers. Bengals didn't play, but we'll talk about Steelers in a minute. That division is by far the best division in football. There's no argument, I don't think, at this point. They are just juggernauts, all of them. And so, yeah, you ran into a bit of a buzzsaw. I think Lions, regroup. They're going to be fine. I think they're a good team. I think they're probably going to win the division, be a playoff team, and I think they could do some damage in the playoffs. We will have to see. Don't sell all your Lions stock yet. Give it a second. It's just Lamar Jackson sometimes does that to you, and you just got to tip the cap to him and say, all right, moving on. We now have some film. We now understand how fast he really is, and he's not just a runner. 21 for 27, 357 yards on 3 touchdowns passing. Pretty darn good. He's not just a runner. Moving on. Bills. Wow. Mac Jones has better numbers than Josh Allen. Over 10 yards of completion, 2 touchdowns, 25 for 30. 27 for 41, under 10 yards of completion, although very close. 2 touchdowns and a pick. When you're looking at this score, 25-29, that could be the difference right there. 1 extra interception, little worse completion percentage, little less total yards. And all of a sudden, you're in trouble. There's not much more to say. The Bills are I don't know, I like to call him kind of the Mike Tyson, but I think Mike Tyson was actually better than the Bills. The Buffalo Bills are, maybe we'll say the Deontay Wilder. Not particularly a great boxer. Has a great knockout punch. But if you avoid that knockout punch, if you don't get hit by it, or if you come back from taking one shot, doesn't really have a lot of other tools in his pocket, right? Cannot win in a lot of ways. The Buffalo Bills will do this to a couple of teams a year. They did it to the Dolphins. Just come out and throttle them. But sometimes when they get in a little bit of a battle, maybe go down early, they really struggle. They don't run the ball particularly well. 13 carries, 56 yards. Not great. Josh Allen has to be a lot of Superman for him. And, man, defense has got to do better than give up 29 points to the Patriots. My goodness. That's really where it comes down to. If they get down, if they have any sort of adversity early, if they don't just knock you out from the very beginning, Buffalo Bills are not very good. They struggle. They struggle to win these games, these battles. And yeah, I don't think they're a title contender. I think that title window is closed for now. I think they need some big changes in a lot of different ways. It's just starting to feel like the same old Bills, which is better than the Bills historically have been. But last few years, Josh Allen Bills are starting to just kind of feel the same over and over and over. Uh, unfortunate for Bills fans out there. Maybe you'll make the playoffs. You're 4-3, definitely got a shot at it. But I don't think you're going very far. I think that you're kind of a one and done playoff team. Cardinals, Seahawks. Cardinals are bad. Cardinals are going for Drake May or Caleb Williams. Seahawks are pretty good. The Seahawks, I think, are kind of like the best team at, I don't know, winning ugly, maybe. They 20-10. They just beat them, right? It's simple as that. They score a couple of touchdowns, get a little lead, score a couple of field goals, and game's over. Geno's fine. Walker's a monster. Jackson Smith and Jigba having a bit of a resurgence here. We like that for Seahawks fans out there. But they're better than the Cardinals. They beat the Cardinals. Moving on. Steelers, Rams. Wow. The Steelers are good. We weren't sure how good they'd be. Another year for Kenny Pickett. No touchdowns, but they like to run the ball in for touchdowns. So, 17-25, 230 yards. It's perfectly fine. Stafford gave it his all a bit, but the Steelers team is good. Their defense is explosive. Their offense is doing enough. They got some boys out there. Pickens can do what we thought he could after watching some of the preseason and training camp and stuff. He's starting to really come into his own. And, they got enough to win. They're a good team. They're a good team. Got to watch out, and that's why, again, I say Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Bengals. That is a terrifying division. And it's kind of unfortunate how good all four teams are. Bengals starting to get healthy, maybe having their moment. The Browns, great defense, although, I don't know, Gardner Minshew maybe exposed them a little bit. Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, Browns. They're just going to beat each other up, and it's kind of unfortunate because we might not be able to get two of those teams in, even though I think there's really three or maybe even four playoff teams right there, or at least caliber teams that could do something. You look at Browns versus, I don't know, the Falcons or somebody who's probably going to get in because that division's so weak. I don't know. I'd lean Browns on that. So, good teams. Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are for real. Once again, Mike Tomlin is probably going to have a winning season. Maybe make the playoffs. What a coach. What a coach. Honestly, he gets talked about a lot, but he doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, look at Belichick and Tomlin. Belichick loses Brady, and they're just a dumpster fire, pretty much. Tomlin's gone through really old Big Ben who couldn't move. Now a young quarterback, and they just turn out wins. They win ugly, right? Similar to those Seahawks teams, right? Pete Carroll, great coaching. I think that's showing you that coaching can matter in the NFL. Chargers, Chiefs. Wow. What do you know? The Chargers are 2-4. They're hyped. They don't deliver or perform. Justin Herbert, okay, but the two picks are pretty terrible. Mahomes goes off. Kelsey goes off. The dude's, I don't know, just ridiculous, especially when Taylor's in the building. And there you go. Kansas City Chiefs are for real. Their only loss coming at the beginning of the season to the Lions. And that's a season opener kind of game. I think you're starting to see Mahomes get a rapport with some of the wide receiving core that is kind of young and new. And they're performing. 31-17. Chargers aren't particularly good. Once again, definitely need to make a coaching change. You're stuck with the Justin Herbert contract. You paid him. So you got to make a coaching change. You got to make him work. And I think coming into this season, people were starting to put Justin Herbert in this class with Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. And I pushed back on that at the beginning of the season. Go watch the quarterback tier list review. Herbert doesn't deserve to be up there. And if you look at that original tier list, Jalen Hurts isn't there. Jalen Hurts deserves to be there. I think there's an argument Lamar might need to be there. Justin Herbert, we're in love with, but again, like I said, I'm starting to see Herbert as the Oregon guy. He's starting to revert to the Oregon quarterback that was good, threw a beautiful ball, was just pretty to watch back there, you know? His mechanics, everything is fantastic. But then he would run into a good team or even a bad team, and sometimes Oregon would just lose to people they shouldn't. And they wouldn't be able to beat the high-level teams that we were hoping they would be. He's starting to be that in the NFL. On paper, you watch him play, and you're like, wow, he looks like one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. But then you go to how his team is performing, and they're just not performing up to the standard that we would expect if he was one of those elite quarterbacks. Not saying he's bad. He is absolutely a franchise quarterback. But I'm wondering if we're putting him in the Mahomes, Burrow, Jalen Hurts category. And it's a little early on Jalen. I think we need a little more time. Burrow, Mahomes, I think you can put those two at the top. Mahomes, obviously, multiple Super Bowls. Burrow made it to a Super Bowl, has dueled with Mahomes multiple times, seems to be the only person who can beat him consistently. Did lose in the AFC Championship game, but 2 straight AFC Championship games, right? That's legit. Jalen Hurts get to the NFC Championship game this season, that's where I'm going to start putting him into that category, right? All right, you can perform more than just 1 year. It's not just a fluke. Let's go get it, right? And I think he is. I mean, he's looking pretty fantastic right now. So maybe those 3, maybe you put a Josh Allen up there, but I don't know. Josh Allen, to me, has a little bit of the Herbert quality of like, man, until I start seeing some AFC Championship games from Josh, I'm not sure. Herbert, I don't think he's not even Josh Allen. I mean, at least Josh Allen has that duel against Mahomes where Mahomes drives them down with 13 seconds left. At least that game, he has on his resume. What's the big game that Herbert has on his resume? In a big moment when you needed him to perform, dueled somebody or out-dueled somebody. Burrow's done it. Mahomes has done it. Josh Allen's got a few moments. Jalen Hurts hung in there against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I don't think you can get put into those top echelons of quarterbacks until you have one of those games. Until you've gone up against the best and held your own, at least. And I've never seen it from Justin Herbert. So, everybody calm down. Quit putting him at the top tier. There is a top tier. Herbert's not in it. Maybe he's a little more like, I don't know, Lamar. Or Trevor Lawrence. Like, that's fine. Those are great quarterbacks. He's just not quite that top tier. Now, Lamar, I think right now is playing his best football. His ball looks better than ever. We might have forgotten about Lamar, but maybe Justin Herbert, we were a little too quick to push him into the top tier. Oh, it's Mahomes and Burrow and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Two of those guys have Super Bowl appearances. The other 2 don't. I think we need to drop them down, and I think we're forgetting about Jalen Hurts. I think we might be forgetting about Lamar. We'll see how Lamar does this season. Lamar needs one of those deep playoff runs. But he does have an MVP season, so, you could give him that as well. Enough with Justin Herbert. We talked about him last week, too. Packers, Broncos. What a snooze fest. My goodness. 2 just bad teams. Jordan Love is not the answer. That's all I have to say about this. I'm sorry. 21 for 31, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. That's just not going to do it. I don't think Russell's real great either here, to be fair, but goodness gracious. Jordan Love not looking good. Not looking good. And I feel like we knew this was coming. Packers, the kid's been in your system for 4 years. We would have heard about him by now. They wouldn't have dealt with maybe as much of Aaron Rodgers' stuff if they knew, oh, we got a kid here who can straight ball. He can't. That's fine. Maybe, he turns into one of those perennial backups, a guy who can come in for a few minutes when your starter gets hurt. I think he could be great in that kind of a role. But he's not. He's not a franchise guy. I don't think he's even a franchise quarterback. I'm taking Cousins over him. I'm taking, a bunch of the rookies over him because of the upside. He's had 4 years. I need more than this. Same system, same coaches. I need more. Need more. And he has a pretty decent, well-respected offensive coach. It's not like he's dealing with some coach that we all hate. I'm sorry. Just not cutting it. Eagles, Dolphins, we've talked a little bit about Hurts already. Eagles are for real. They look good. They look dominant. Dolphins are starting to look a little bit of a glass cannon kind of situation here where, their wins are coming against really bad teams. Yeah, they blew out the Broncos, but then they run into the Bills, get throttled, run into the Eagles, get throttled, and we don't even think the Bills are that good. Wondering here a little bit, are the Dolphins as good as we think they are? Maybe not. Maybe we overhyped them a little bit. But, that they hung with them at the beginning. But towards the end of the game, you look. A couple of field goals in the first quarter, couple of touchdowns. All right, starting to get away. Oh, come right back. Touchdown, tie it up. And then, there you go. Couldn't do anything else. So, there is some little bit of a glass cannon, maybe. They kind of break up if you run into a physical team. I think that there's some concerns there. Playing physical teams, will they be able to hold up? Will they hold up once the cold weather comes, right? It was a little cold in Philly, a little windy. Playoff football is not always the best conditions. They might struggle. I'm not ready to fully sell all my Dolphins stock, but starting to see a bit of a pattern. Run into a physical team, run into somebody that's actually pretty good. Again, I think their combined record was like 5 wins of the teams that they've beaten. So they're beating nobodies, and then they run into a couple of good teams and they get beat. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Final game, Monday. We're cranking through them here. Niners, Vikings. Wow. Kirk Cousins. Dude just puts up numbers. He does. And a lot of the times the Vikings just lose. And it's like, wow. Cousins, again, threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. How did they lose? Well, I don't know. It's the Vikings. Brock Purdy, though, I think is the part that everybody's focusing on. Bit of a 2-game skid here. Is this what Brock Purdy is when he doesn't have Debo and Christian and all of the weapons, all super healthy? What happens? And good for Kirk Cousins. I think he's proving himself that he deserves another contract somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be with the Vikings. I think they might just be ready to move on. But Purdy, man, is there a bit of a ceiling here maybe with the Niners? Do they really just need everything together to make him successful? Starting to look like it. He loses McCaffrey last game, they lose. Doesn't have Debo this game, they lose. I think he might need a lot of help. And what Brock Purdy does, that we've praised him for with all these weapons, and this is how San Francisco can win, He doesn't turn the ball over. Well, what did he do against the Vikings? Turned it over. 2 picks. If Purdy throws interceptions, they're going to lose. He's not an explosive enough quarterback to overcome those kinds of things. And I think that's where the Niners sit. Do I still think they're a Super Bowl contender? Yes, their roster is incredible. But there are some concerns. Is this just a situation very similar to when they had Jimmy G? Brock Purdy is kind of just a healthier Jimmy G, but then also he got hurt last season too, so I don't know. Starting to look concerning. You're starting to remember why they drafted Trey Lance. They wanted that upside. Not saying Trey Lance is better than Brock Purdy. Not at all. I think that's pretty well documented. He isn't. But there is a ceiling to what Brock Purdy can do to elevate the team. He's kind of back there. Just don't make mistakes. Distribute the ball. Get it to these great players on your roster. He's a very cheap contract. They can afford to spend for McCaffrey and Debo and that great defense. But if the defense gives up 378 yards to Kirk Cousins and Jordan Addison decides he's Randy Moss, there's not a lot of opportunities for San Francisco to overcome those kinds of things. So that's it. That is the wrap up. A whole week of NFL football. Cannot wait for next week. We got Thursday night game coming up here pretty soon. Make sure you're tuning in to that so you can participate in the discussions. And thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to this part of the video. And we'll see you next time.